As per usual, this episode of the Media Row podcast is sponsored by Kelly's Little Nipper and Stevens Automotive and Sales. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to the Media Row podcast. We have 3 shows, finally, 3 shows in a week. It's been a while since we've been able to say that, and it won't be long before we're not able to say that because wedding this weekend, so no show next Monday. And then we have our last camping trip, kind of the final hurrah for summer of 2025 with the family. So no show that following Monday as well. But happy to have everyone here on this beautiful Monday to finally get 3 shows this week. Thank you again, by the way, everyone that has commented, liked, subscribed, all that good stuff. I recommend that you keep doing that if you're a new listener or still a, loyal listener. It means the world, and I very much appreciate it. And last week had 2 shows that both got great interactions and both got a lot of comments, a lot of clicks, which I'm not someone who am just sitting, up at night going, man, how do I get clicks? How do I get clicks? I've never been that guy. And it's because of the people that helped train me, of like Ross, Travis. They were never guys that wanted to just grab clicks. So I'm the same way. And anyways, Alex Cohen, the Cubs interview went great, and I appreciate him taking time out of his day last week. That got a lot of traction. And then on Friday's show with Sam Summers and Hinterland, which again, that was such a fun show. I could talk music for hours and Hinterland and all that great stuff. That got a lot of great traction too. So I'm glad you guys are liking kind of the variety we've done this summer of, we're mostly a sports show, but I like how you guys have been able to allow me to talk about things that interest me. The National Geographic show did great, and then Sam Summers and this Hinterland show did great too. So I very much so wanted to say thank you. And with all the weird scheduling, you guys are still commenting, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. It's meaning the world. But before we move on to kind of our show rundown, what to expect today, because it is just me. So no interview today, but on Wednesday's show, we will have a big interview and a fun interview set up for you guys. As the summer, we've kind of been more interview heavy, but just me today. But before we get to our show rundown, need to give a huge congratulations to 2 people that have always treated me with great respect and have been wonderful people. And that's Kaylee and Sean Roberts, who just welcomed their first child. Huge congratulations. Sean was someone that welcomed me into the radio station with open arms, and Kaylee always welcomed us into their home with open arms as well. Megan and I, very excited for you two, and just want to say congratulations on this show. And yeah, I'll tell this funny story. Because I sent Sean a text of like, congratulations, we're very happy for you two. And he mentioned how everything, like the White Sox went up 1-0 against my Cubs on Saturday night, and that's when everything started to happen, I guess, and that's when they're like, we need to go to the hospital. So he was saying it was meant to be. The White Sox homer, they're up, and now I'm going to welcome my first child. I said, meant to be? Poor kid comes into this world, and you have him watching a team that's losing 6-1 to one of the best teams in baseball, in my Chicago Cubs. So it was a fun interaction. It cracked me up. And again, even though Sean and I don't see each other every day like we used to, the Cubs and White Sox banner will never end. That will just always be there, I guess. Even when I'm trying to be nice and say, congratulations, I guess there's always going to be that bad blood between us. But once more, congratulations, Kaylee and Sean. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope the baby's healthy. And glad to see everybody giving you guys great messages and congratulating you too. Both deserve it. Congratulations. Now, time for our show rundown. because I don't really have a lot of more personal stuff to share. It was a slow weekend, which are nice, but I'd be lying if I kind of went stir crazy. Megan's in Missouri, so it was just me, and I watched a lot of movies. I read a little, and that's about it. Like, I don't have any fun stories for you on my front there. So, show rundown though today. It's going to be college football heavy because, I mean, it's the 28th of July, and we're done with Big 12, Big 10 media days. So the two big schools, Iowa and Iowa State, their football media days are over with their conferences. And try to get an Iowa Hawkeye expert on the show. You know, spoke with Chad Leistokow. He's out family vacation. We will get an Iowa guy on the show. I try to send a few messages to the athletic department to try to get somebody involved on the show. Just didn't work out scheduling wise. But I know for you Hawkeye fans that listen, I know it's been Drake, Iowa State heavy in terms of our local schools, which the Drake, I mean, that's what we've kind of promoted this show as. So you're not surprised there. But I do want to talk about both Iowa, Iowa State, talk about UNI, because I do want to try to get Coach Stepsis on the show at some point before football season begins and it becomes even more hectic. But very college football heavy show today. I do want to give a few thoughts on the Big Ten media days, both with the Iowa Hawkeyes and then with a school that, man, it just always seems like there's PR issues with one of these schools. And you may be guessing which one I'm talking about right now. But talk about Iowa, talk about just something that happened in Big Ten media days that rubbed me the wrong way. Saw on Twitter it rubbed a few people the wrong way. And then just going to finish up because I was on the phone with a family member, and we were just, of course, talking football and college sports. And they asked me the question, what are the two biggest stories going into 2025? And it took me a second to think about them, of what are the two biggest stories. So I have my two down, and it'll be interesting for you guys to let me know what you think in the comments and on Twitter of what you think are the two biggest stories ahead of our 2025 kickoff. So back to sports. You know, we had some fun with Sam Summers, had some fun with National Geographic, but we are back to college football, back to sports here on the show today. So before we get to our rundown and our Big Ten media days, need to give a shout out to Kelly's Little Nipper at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines, the historic Kelly's Little Nipper. Great food, great drinks, even better community. Wednesday nights, you have trivia night, which had a few family members and friends actually go to that last week and said it was phenomenal. Said it was a blast. And it was even one they don't always do at Kelly's Little Nipper, like a theme with their trivia. But this one was because people had been asking for it. So it was Friends Trivia. Megan would have dominated. Megan's a diehard Friends fanatic. My mom, not so much. And the family and friends that went with her, not so much. But they still had a great time. And they said they're going to go again. And they asked, it's not always themed oriented. It's always usually all over the place so everyone can have a good time. So go check that out. And then if you're into live and local music, go check them out on the weekends, as they always have great music out on the patio and sometimes inside as well. Kelly's Little Nipper, 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Great food, great drinks, and even better community. Go check them out, and when you do, make sure to let them know that Media Row sent you. So let's jump into kind of our thoughts with the Big Ten media days. So starting off with the Iowa Hawkeyes, media days, I'm torn because I'm a sports fanatic. I'll watch this stuff. I remember last year with Iowa State, I was watching every single coach in their interviews on ESPN Plus for Big 12 media days. Didn't do it as much for the Big Ten, of course, because my job at the time was covering Iowa State. But this year, I've kind of just been reading up on it, seeing, what Leistakow's putting out, what John Walters puts out for Iowa State, just kind of staying in the know, but not going as deep as I usually do. And I've been torn because I remember kind of poking fun at Travis and Ross because they were like, oh, we hate media days. And I was like, oh, I don't hate media days. Yeah, is it usually the same thing over and over? Yeah, but I still, for some reason, I like it. This year was the first year where, man, I was sitting back and I'm like, we've heard that. We've heard that. Yep. And then he's going to say this and he will say that. And it just, I don't know, it didn't hit the same. And so, anyways, I'm going through and I'm reading, I'm watching interview clips and reading stories. And with the Iowa Hawkeyes, it's the same thing of what's the quarterback position? What's the offense going to look like? Because we know the defense is always going to be solid. Defense is usually better than solid, but it's always there. The defense is going to perform for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And they lost a lot offensively because running backs are a big deal. Caleb Johnson, of course, now with the Steelers. They lose McNamara, which, let's be honest, how much of a loss is that? And you even had Ferentz say, I know we'll be much improved at the quarterback position, which it's like, okay, but then all last year when people would ask, man, issues at quarterback, oh, I'd brush it off. No. He's our best guy, blah, blah, blah. And maybe he was his best guy, but then, in a 6-month span, you're over here, oh, yeah, quarterback position was rough. That's why we'll be so much better at quarterback now. It's like, okay, yep, it's typical Iowa. You're going to get this every year. And now, though, something unique with this offense is last year, a lot of injuries at that offensive line mark. And they had still, despite those injuries, 3 guys in the All Big Ten. They return Dunker and Logan Jones, which are 2 big names coming back on that offensive line. But that's actually a weird question mark that we're not used to. That will be unique for 2025. But you expect it to be improved. Last year, again, with all those injuries, with kind of the poor performance for Iowa standards, you still charged up the field rushing-wise. You didn't charge up the field as an offense, just rushing-wise. You had Caleb Johnson putting everything on his back. But the big story offensively, like we keep hinting around, is that quarterback position for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And they get a transfer from South Dakota State, someone who's won a championship, and that's Mark Gronowski. And, man, it's hard for me to get excited. Sure. Did he put up great stats with South Dakota State? Yes, he did. And have they been talking, man, he's very athletic. Does he have a lot of speed? Maybe he does, but it won't get utilized. And I know people are like, well, Tim Lester's in his second year. Last year, he didn't have complete hold of the reins. Maybe that's true. And it's true that the second year, you do expect the offense to perform a little better from Lester, of just being more comfortable, being used to now being with Kirk Ferentz and the team in general. That's all true. But it's still Kirk Ferentz. It's still his offense, don't you think? Am I the only one that isn't getting blinded by this? Of, sure, did Lester bump this Iowa offense a little? Yeah, he did. In his first year, they were the 5th worst offense. And that's a huge step forward if you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan in recent years, because they were last in 2023, last in 2022, and second to last in 2021. So yeah, being 5th to last, you're like, oh, we improved. But overall, those numbers, you better be in the middle of the pack this year. And you want to be better than the middle of the pack. That's how low the bar is set for Iowa's offense. Is you'd be really happy if they were a middle of the pack offense. Because how many years? I guess since 2021, you've been like, man, if they just had a competent offense, if they were in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten, that's a top 15 team, top 10 team. And now, man, defense lost a lot. offensive line issues. You lose your best player in Caleb Johnson. I don't know what to expect from this team, except I just feel like it's just going to be a normal run for the Iowa Hawkeyes, where they're a good team, but nothing exciting to watch. They're not, you're going to watch them go up against, a team like a Penn State and just get embarrassed like they did last year. But I just don't see any excitement offensively from this team, even with a brand new quarterback. And, you can have Kirk Ferentz talking about, man, I love working with this team as we get ready to go into the most important part of the season outside of the regular season. And you're like, yeah, we've heard that for years. It's just, it's such a tiring conversation. The team's performance has been tiring, to be honest, for me as a casual watcher of the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's kind of tiring. It's the same thing every year, and it's tiring to talk about because we say the same thing every year. But who knows? Maybe we get a weird freak season like we did in 2015. Who knows? Maybe that's the best part of watching college football is we don't know what's going to happen. We can sit there and be like, look at what we've learned from the past few seasons from the Hawkeyes. I can bitch and complain of, man, it's time to go for Ferentz, and X, Y, and Z proves why they're boring and why they're just going to have a normal Iowa season. But it's the feeling I have. And I think when you talk to Iowa Hawkeye fans, most of them are going to have that same feeling. But the Iowa Hawkeyes, of course, get their season started on Saturday, August 30th against Albany, 5 o'clock on FS1, and then they take on the Cyclones at 11 o'clock on Fox for the Cyhawk series, which should be fun too, because the Iowa State Cyclones, again, another team with kind of a lot of question marks offensively too, but the biggest position is solidified with Rocco Beck. If you want to know more about what we've talked about with the Iowa State Cyclones, kind of a preseason look for the Cyclones, go back 2 weeks ago. Talked with Jake Bren on the show, and he gave his thoughts on the Iowa State Cyclones and Big 12 Media Days as he was there in Dallas. So go check that out after this show, of course, after this one. Go check that out if you're a Cyclone fan, wondering kind of what we thought about their season. But that's kind of my thoughts with the Iowa Hawkeyes in terms of Big Ten Media Days. I do want to jump forward to kind of talking about something, again, that I think is a tiring subject, but it happens at least once in the regular season, maybe in the off season. But the poor people at Penn State's PR team. James Franklin. I just always feel like he opens up the mic and you're going to get something that rubs you the wrong way. At least it's for me. Every time he says something, I'm like, you come off very complaining. You complain quite a bit. And then you'll stop and be like, well, I'm not mad. The audio clip I'm about to play for you that comes from Brady Montana off of Twitter, who covers Notre Dame football, actually posted this. Because he kind of bitches about Notre Dame and them not playing a conference schedule. But he'll say in this clip I'm about to play for you, I'm not mad. And it's like, you are very much so mad, or you wouldn't be talking about this. But anyways, to kind of give you a brief explanation of this clip, James Franklin during media days complaining about Notre Dame, the conference games, how Big Ten teams play 9 conference games. Notre Dame's not even in a conference. Just, it comes off like he's still very bitter about losing to Notre Dame, when they could have played in a national title game, which is fair, but there's a way to do it. And it just seems like James Franklin, if he's going to speak into a mic, or even sometimes when he doesn't speak into a mic, it's going to hurt the PR team. And that's a nod to last year with the allegations, and someone asked, and you have the communications director pull him off the stage, and he doesn't even respond to it. So here is from Brady Montana on Twitter. It's kind of a longer clip, but I want to play the whole thing. James Franklin at Big Ten Media Days.
Hit non-conference. We played West Virginia non-conference. We played Auburn non-conference and had success in all of them. The good thing is we all have the ability to build our programs the way we see best. Coach has the ability to build his program how he thinks best, and we have the ability to do that at Penn State as well. The thing that I struggle with is the same thing I've been talking about for a long time, and this doesn't change. Everybody has to play the same number of conference games. Like, this ain't that hard, right? Everybody should be playing 8, or everybody should be playing 9. I was in that other conference when the whole discussion about going to 9 games was voted on. Everybody should be either play a conference championship game, or everybody shouldn't play conference championship game. Everybody should be in a conference. I said that last year at a press conference before playing Notre Dame, and everybody thought I was slighting Notre Dame. I've been saying that for 10 years. If I didn't say it in that moment when I was asked the question, I'd be a hypocrite. Like, I'm going to say it now because I've been saying it the whole time, and that's not a knock, but you're asking a group of people to get into a room and decide the best 12 or 16 teams in college football, and you're not comparing apples to apples. The other thing is when you try to compare a non-conference schedule from a conference that plays 8 compared to a conference that plays 9, it's going to look different. We already have another power conference team on our schedule. They're required to play another power conference. They have to because they only play 8 games. We traditionally had never played FCS teams. Other conferences were playing FCS teams. But then you get these media members that we know are not true national media members. They're homers to certain conferences. We have them in the Big Ten. Other people have them as well. And then they get on and pound the table about people's schedules. You're not comparing the same things. It's not going to look the same. We're already playing 9 conference games. Where does it make sense? If you look, when the Big Ten first went to 9 games, you could make the argument maybe the worst decision the Big Ten has ever made. Just mathematically, we were going to have more losses. We were going to beat each other up. Over the last 2 years, we've been more strategic about that. It's worked out pretty well. So there's an easy solution to this. Everybody play the same number of games. Everybody play a conference championship. And then everything else will take care of itself. We were sold in the Big Ten all those years when we went to 9 games that strength of schedule was going to determine the teams that got into the 4-team playoff. That never played out to be the case. It never played out to be the case. Scheduling non-conference late games in the year, which sometimes can almost be like a bye week late in the season. All these things are strategies that you have to decide what puts your institution, your program in the best position to be successful. The good thing is the way it's set up right now, we all have the choice to do that. And all the criticisms that come in either direction, they're great for conversations and they're great for people getting angry and upset, but I'm not angry.
So there it is. I mean, this next segment we're going to talk about is the biggest stories, and I think another one is Penn State. It's not one of my top 2. It's probably not even like top 5 biggest stories, but it's just something we're going to see is Penn State every year. You're going to have James Franklin win a big game, like win a tough game early on that makes fans really excited. But then he's going to lose to Oregon and Ohio State like he did last year. And then it's going to be fire Franklin. And then there's going to be something in the media where he gets upset and pissed off about, and it's going to be a bad moment for Penn State's PR team. But here he is complaining. I think Penn State was one of the teams that actually benefited in the way we pick teams in the college football playoffs. Here he is complaining about Notre Dame, saying, man, it's not apples to apples. Yeah, and everyone complained about Penn State getting in. The two biggest games on your schedule, you guys lost. And you didn't go to the Big Ten championship game. And you still made it to the playoffs. And you were a game away from playing in a national title game, which you would have lost to Ohio State again. But here he is complaining about something his team benefited from. So I already have my skin kind of crawls with James Franklin. I'm not a fan, and that doesn't help in this scenario, but I'm trying to see it from an unbiased set of eyes and ears. But I don't think I'm wrong here. I do not think I'm wrong in feeling that he's complaining about something his team benefited from. If you disagree with me, maybe you're a Penn State fan listening. Welcome to the show. Sorry, but I would love to hear if you're disagreeing with me, kind of your thoughts, because I'm someone too. I love these conversations, especially they're the best ones to have weeks before the season starts. So that's the Penn State segment I wanted to get to. Moving on before we finish up today's show, want to get to that conversation I had with my dad of what's the biggest stories heading into 2025. And I sat there, I was like, man, what are they? And he brings up Arch Manning. And you're like, yeah, that's number one. Clearly number one. The reason I didn't think of it right away, though, is hasn't it felt like Arch Manning's been the top story for 3 seasons? And that's a reason, too, of man, I'm not excited about it. We have Paul Feinbaum on ESPN saying, oh, this dude's going to be the best college quarterback ever. He's going to be better than Baker Mayfield. He's going to be better than X, Y, and Z. And you're like, the dude hasn't had an opportunity. I mean, he's had chances, but this is going to be his true opportunity. And that's why it is the top story, is how will he perform in the SEC? And the guys are getting paid now millions. But you kind of hope that he doesn't suck. But you do kind of hope there's a little bit of that struggle to be like, okay, now the conversation will dwindle down. We don't have to hear about it constantly. And now we get to see his true worth of all right, he's going to put in the work and get out there and let's see him sling that football. But that's the number one top story is Arch Manning full season under the Texas offense. What will happen? And I think he's going to struggle to start. I really do. I think there's a lot of pressure on him, and it'll be interesting to see. But again, he's had that pressure for 3 seasons now. To finish up, though, my top 2 stories ahead of 2025. I think number 2, and maybe this is a sneaky one, and maybe this is Big Ten Media Day, is the recent stuff that happened. Recency bias is the word I was looking for. But Indiana, I think they're the second top story because you have Cignetti, who talked a lot of smack last year, who lost against Ohio State, got crushed against Ohio State, and then got crushed against Notre Dame in the college football playoffs. But if you're Indiana, you're okay with all that because you made the college football playoffs in a year nobody expected you to do anything like that. So now what happens when Cignetti is on everybody's list of all right, he was talking trash about us. And Indiana's a really good team, well-coached team that now won't be the underdog, is now not going to catch any teams by surprise. So they kind of have a target on their back too. How will they perform now when every team is not going in thinking, oh, it's just Indiana? They're not going to be fooled by the logo on the helmet at all. So I think that's the second top story. That was the one I thought of before Arch Manning, just because of, like I've said 1,000 times, the Arch Manning stuff just feels so old. But those are my top two, Arch Manning and then Indiana with Cignetti. So that will do it for our kind of college football Big Ten Media Day, kind of quick weekly opening wrap up of what we saw late last week. Before we finish up today's show, though, need to give a shout out to Stevens Automotive and Sales at 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. 35 years of family owned and operated. They are people that are loyal. There are people that are trustworthy. There are people that aren't going to give you any BS. Perfect place for any of your car issues. Perfect place if you're looking to get a car for yourself or maybe for a family member that's just learning how to drive. Wonderful, wonderful people there at Stevens Automotive and Sales. No one else I'd rather have helping me out with my cars, and I want to pass that on to you, the listener. So if it's an oil change, if it's anything that you need help with, go to the people that have been here for 35 years, and that's over at 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. Stevens Automotive and Sales. When you go there, let them know that Media Row sent you. Thank you guys again so much for a great show. Great way to kick off this week. 3 shows this week. Again, fireworks going off. But make sure to like, subscribe, comment on all the social media pages, wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube. Wednesday show, this summer I kind of went in being like, I want to interview people that have inspired me or that have been mentors to me. And here I am, doing a Drake podcast, a Drake centralized podcast, I should say. And I haven't interviewed Michael Admire. So Michael Admire is coming on the show. We've had him on, of course, to talk games, but here I am wanting to talk about his career and also just Drake football and men's basketball getting ready to get started this year for 2025. So Michael Admire hopping on the show with us Wednesday. Hope to see you guys there with a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast.